All right. Day one notes. I'm not going to do a lot of writing of definitions because that's just really time consuming, so let's just listen to it. A point is a hard word to define because you want to say, oh, a point is a point in space. You can't use the word to define itself. So a point is just a specific location in space. And we usually we use dot and we put a letter next to it, capital letter. That is point A. Okay? And it's just a specific location somewhere in space. A line. The important thing about a line is that it goes on forever and ever in both directions. And we've been using the word line for years incorrectly. So when you were in grade school, you might have had to underline or put a line underneath the noun or, the colors in a paragraph. You actually were not drawing a line because you didn't put arrows on it. What you were drawing was a line segment. A line segment has two specific endpoints. So if anyone ever said draw a line under your name, you were actually drawing a line segment. Now, there are points on a line also, but they're not the end points because it keeps going past the points in both directions. And here's how we write this. We put that symbol over the two letters. And it doesn't matter which way we do it. It can go either direction. Same thing with the line segment. They can be written like this or like this. Makes no difference. The important thing is a line segment ends, has end points. Now, a midpoint is exactly what it sounds like. If I take this line segment, AB, and I go to the exact middle, and I put a point, so that this segment is equal to that segment. Get rid of that, so it's not confusing. Those two segments are equal to each other. That's what those little hash marks mean. Okay? C is the midpoint. It's the point that cuts the segment in half. It's the middle. It's the middle point. Kind of self-explanatory. Collinear. Co means with. Okay? If you have a sibling at home, you cohabitate with them. You live with them in the same house. Okay? If you have a co-worker, it's someone you work with. All right? So therefore, collinear means with each other on the same line. So it's just points on the same line. Or line segment or whatever. So for example, A and B are collinear. C is not. C is not on that line. Okay, a plane. A plane is a flat surface. All right? Now, with a plane, we generally usually draw it like a parallelogram. That represents the plane. Now, your desk is a plane, the piece of paper you're writing on is a plane, but theoretically, actually, a plane is like a line, and it goes on forever in all directions. So the floor we're standing on is a plane, but if we can extend the floor outside this building, theoretically, that's what a plane is. Coplanar, just like collinear, means with each other on the same plane. So that means points on the same plane. Okay? So for example, if I have point or plane Q, we use a capital letter for a plane. And then I have, point A right here. Actually, for a plane, we actually use italic letters because I can't really draw italics, but this is usually going to be an italic letter. So here's point A, here's point B, and then point C is over here, not on the plane. It might be above the plane, it might be below the plane, but it's not on the plane. You got to kind of think three-dimensional. Okay? So for example, if I drew a line that was coming through the plane, like so, okay, if you think about like sticking your pencil through your paper, point C is on that line that might be below or above the paper. Okay, congruence basically means the same, equal, okay? If two things are congruent, they have the same measurement, equal measurement. And a segment bisector, okay, to bisect means to cut into two equal parts, okay? Two equal parts, and that's key, all right? So a segment bisector kind of goes along with the midpoint. If here's my segment, and here's my midpoint, C. Well, C is the midpoint. But if I make that maybe, a line, like CD, well, if CD cuts this in half, then CD is a segment bisector. It bisected AB. It cut it in half. It's kind of like scissors. It came and cut that in half. Okay, we've kind of covered this already. A point is named with a capital letter. All right. A line is named by two letters. Capital also. Okay. Okay, so you could say, like I said before, A, B. All right. But you can also use a lowercase, and it's usually italic letter. So if I had this line here, I could call this line AB, but if I had a lowercase m, I could also call this line M. Or line AB. I have that choice. So a plane is named by three, this is important, non-collinear points. Otherwise, it's a line. You're just naming a line. Or a single capital letter. And usually, again, that's in italics in the book. Okay, so look down below here. If I had 3 points on here, A, B, C, as long as they're not in one straight line, I can call this plane ABC. Or I could just have a capital letter up here, with no dot. Okay, so there's no dot, it's just a capital Q, so I can call this plane Q. All right, so the key thing there is no dot. Okay, if two segments are congruent, you'll see the hash marks. I've already talked about that with midpoint, but let's say I wanted to mark these two congruent, but I can't mark lines congruent, so I need, points here, A, B, and CD. If I want to say A, B, and CD are congruent, I put a hash mark. I can put 2 hash marks. I can put 17 hash marks as long as they're the same number of hash marks. That shows congruency. Okay, name a point, line, and plane in the picture. Okay, point, I'm going to call it, say, point Z. All right. Now, line, I cannot say ZX or XY because there are no arrows. So for a line, I need to use 2 of these 3 letters, and it can be any combination of that. So let's say I did ZW. and I put this over it. I could have used ZY or WY, doesn't matter. And a plane, I cannot use those three letters. So for a plane, I would have to say plane ZYX, ZWX, YWX, but not collinear points. Name three collinear points. I've already alluded to that. That would be Z, Y, and W. Three non-collinear points. That's the same as naming a plane. Well, let's use different ones this time. How about W, Y, and X? Okay. Example 2. Name the plane in three different ways. Okay. Well, I can call it plane RST. I can call it plane UTS. And let's just put a letter on here and call it plane A. Now, RUST don't have dots specifically, but they are vertices. They are intersections of two segments, so they are unwritten points without the dots there. Now it says mark RS is congruent to UT. So RS is this segment here, UT is this segment here. It also says RU and ST. Well, the problem here is I can't do this because that would mean they're all equal to each other. So I need to make these 2. Or I could have made RS and UT 2 and those 1. It doesn't matter as long as they're the same. Okay, postulates. A postulate is an accepted statement of fact, or fact. Okay? So, kind of like common sense. Through any 2 points, there's exactly 1 line. If 2 lines intersect, they touch each other, they intersect only at 1 point. Okay, so if I draw this and this, they only intersect right there, 1 point. If 2 planes intersect, they intersect at a line. So look wherever you're sitting right now. Look at the floor and the wall. Look where they meet. They meet at a line. And then through any 3 non-collinear points, there's only 1 plane. All right, shade the plane that contains points X, Y, and Z. Now when you do this, I suggest you do this. Take your pencil and go, well, not that. X, Y, Z. Well, what plane does that contain? Well, that's this one right here. So we're talking about that back panel of the pyramid. Name 3 collinear points. Well, that's easy to do because on any line segment there's only 2. BC, FG, FE, except for down here. That's the only place. So D, J, and H. Name 2 different planes that points C and G. Well, I like to circle those points, okay, and think about it as a box, all right? So CG is on the front of the box and the top of the box. Now, even though C is on the left side, G is on the right side, they're not on the same plane there. So there's only 2 planes, the front and top. So if you want to, write down words like that that make sense, and then fill them in with the letters. So the front, I use any 3 letters, C, G, H, D. Pick any 3. You can use all 4, but you just need to use 3. C, G, H. And then for the top, I don't even have to use C and G. I can say F, B, C. I don't have to use the 2 letters given to me. I just have to name that plane. Now, where does AED and HEG? Well, what I like to do, and if you have colored pencils, it's great, but I like to just trace AED. So A, E, and D are all on the bottom. Okay? So I might even write here, that's the bottom. And HEG, where's that? Well, H and E and G You might call that the right side. Now, where do those intersect? Right there, at EH, line segments. How many planes contain H, F, and A? Okay, we got a lot of marks on here. So H, F, and A. How many planes contain all three of those? None of them. H and A are on the top, H and F are on the right, but none of them contain all 3 points. That's it.